It's time to listen in to the stories for crossroads of business and family on the Got Family Show with Carrie Berger. Whether you're in the business of your own or want to be, this is a show where changes happen. Now, here's Carrie Berger.
Hello and welcome to the Got Family Show. I am Carrie Berger and we are on, of course, the voiceoflawrence.com. We're also on lawrencetv.tv, which means some of you poor souls have to look at me. And today I'm wearing a hat, and I have to tell the story just because if you do something stupid, you should let everybody know what you did. Well, here's the lesson, all right? I was working in the shop with my son, and I had a hammer. You know it goes badly from this point, obviously, but I had a hammer. It was on top of the ladder where I was working. No problem. I then proceeded to get down from the ladder and forgot that I left the hammer up there. Everybody raise your hand if you know what happens next. Yes, I moved the ladder. It fell on my head. It was a claw hammer, and the claws go downward. And golly gee whiz, I bled like you can't believe. I managed to keep all those bad thoughts inside. In fact, my son said he was very proud of me. And I couldn't help but think about Jimmy Carter and how when he was asked about, have you ever done bad things, he said, no, but I've done it in my heart. Boy, I tell you what, I sure thought it in my heart. I thought it really, really loud. It hurt. But so anyhow, I'm wearing a hat today to cover up the goo that is the top of my head. And anyhow, that was not my week for the day. As you know, we always start by telling what we've been doing this week. And this week has been a really interesting week, mostly working by long distance. Normally I work, as you know, on the road, spend a lot of time in airplanes and going to sit with clients. And you know why I do that? Because I'm always working with families, and with families there's more of them than me. So why would we have 3 people get on a plane to come to Lawrence, Kansas when one of me can get on the plane to go wherever they are? But this week I got to work by remote, and that was the most interesting part about it, was the reality that I always am aware of, but I don't always think to mention it to you guys, and that is time zones, just time zones. I had one client who was in Hawaii. Yeah, everybody cried for her. Her other person who was involved in the deal we were dealing with was in Portland, Oregon, okay. Their attorney was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm here in Kansas. And I tell you what, trying to figure out when we could have a conversation when we were all wide awake and sort of in something like business hours was fascinating. What our conversations had to do with in this particular case was a transaction. We were working on a sale of a business from one party to another, and we spent a lot of the time dealing with the question of non-compete. And that's one of the things I guess we can talk about here briefly is if you're in a conversation with somebody who has a product or a skill or a business of some sort, that they want to make sure that you don't learn all their secrets and then go about utilizing them to your benefit, then they're going to ask you to sign something. And it was a really interesting discussion to talk about our non-compete or non-disclosure agreement and the details of that. I'll bring it down to the short answer. The short answer is that different situations are indeed different. In this particular case, what we found was when we got really down to the nitty-gritty of it, most of the things that they knew were not secrets. There was one thing, though, there was one contract with one company which really was very sensitive, and that was what we focused on. And I guess that would be my piece of advice to you. If you are looking to disclose but not let other people disclose some information, try to be as narrow as possible. The courts do not like overly broad statements on this topic. They feel like as if you're impeding commerce, and they don't want that to happen. And so thus they're not going to enforce it very well. But if you're specific, you say, I want this topic or this company or this issue for this period of time and or this geographic area to be protected, then that gets protected. And it's a very, very important document. I would encourage each of you to think about that. And if you get to a place where that's an issue for you, talk to your attorney and make sure that you do try to keep it kind of narrow and specific. Well, that's our topic for the day, or that was my week, if you will. And now we're going to have a special treat. Today we have Becky and Rodney Johansson of Eileen's Colossal Cookies right here in Lawrence, Kansas, 4931 West 6th Street, Lawrence, Kansas. And they're going to talk with us after the break. But first, let's take a break. Welcome back. This is Got Family, and I am Carrie Berger, and we are on the voiceoflawrence.com. We're also on lawrencetv.tv. We're here today with Becky and Rodney Johansson of Eileen's Colossal Cookies. Hello, how are you guys?
We're great.
They are going to tell us a little bit about their life living at the crossroads of business and family. And in particular, what's unique, I think, about their story is they are a husband and wife, and they are co-owners of a business. One of them is more specifically involved with this particular business, but the other one is nonetheless just as invested, and we have to talk about that balance between family and business. So that's our topic today, and we'll just have a little conversation. If I may, let's start off with just a short version of your story. We'll ask Becky first. How did you find Eileen's Colossal Cookies?
We lived in Grand Island, Nebraska, and kept hearing about these wonderful cookies, and had a good friend that was the district manager for Eileen's Colossal Cookies. And so I ended up becoming the manager in the original store, which is Hastings, Nebraska. And so I managed that store for 3.5 years, and then we moved back to Kansas, and I got involved with Caremark Specialty Pharmacy and quite a few other things, and always wanted to get back into baking because I also ran a baking out of my home bakery. Wedding cakes and specialty pies and things like that. So we were just working our lives in Olathe, Kansas. I was in management training at Starbucks, and the call came from Eileen's that her Lawrence, Kansas store was about to close. Would we want to buy it? And we jumped at the chance.
Oh, fantastic. And there's a lot we can talk about there. I guess the one that really comes to my mind was you said you were in training to go one direction and you chose to go the other. Tell me about this idea of a franchise versus starting something on your own, and how'd you make that decision?
Well, when we first came back from Nebraska, we looked at doing the franchise for Eileen. Part of the reason we didn't do that is because we thought, well, the name recognition, why are we going to pay franchise fees? And when there's no name recognition here. And so the cost that it was to start it up wasn't right what we wanted to invest in at that time. And so because I love being in the public and I love making things for people, I went and started working first at Nordstrom's to study customer service, and then I went to Starbucks because of their customer service, always with the plan that I would have my own bakery or cafe. That was in the back of my mind. So I was at Starbucks to learn more about how to be a good business person in this community.
Now, ironically, I didn't realize this, but of course my little intro at the beginning talked all about the non-compete, non-disclosure. How did it work for you to be able to go to the other places and learn from them and still share it? I know it's perfectly ethical and appropriate. How does that work? So tell our listeners how it is that they were able, that you can balance that. You can learn from somebody else, but you're not really stealing their secrets.
Well, first of all, Nordstrom is one of the reasons there's such good customer service is because they will share. And you can walk into any Nordstrom's cafe and you can buy anything you want. If you love it, they'll give you the recipe. So I have some of the recipes, but that's in my own personal recipe file. I don't really ever use them. Then Starbucks, I really was studying mostly their customer service. And yes, I know how to make all their drinks, but I don't serve drinks at my shop. So there really wasn't ever an issue on any of that.
Well, and actually, as the old saying goes, no ideas are new anyhow. We all are just sort of recycling, so to speak, and then the smart ones are learning from the good organizations, and you pick some really good organizations. For now, we need to take a little break. We're going to have a brief commercial. We'll come back and talk a little bit more. This
good.
is Got Family, and I am Carrie Berger. Welcome back. This is Got Family. I'm Carrie Berger. We're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson, and we are talking about their decision to go into Eileen's Colossal Cookies, right here in Lawrence, Kansas, next to Famous Dave's. How did you make that decision to do it, and how did you do it? That's kind of the big question. Whichever one of those you like, how did you make the decision to do it? You've talked a little bit about that. You got all the education from other places. What about this model did finally sell you? Was it the numbers? Was it just how great the cookies are? What sold you?
It's really easy when you're sold on your product to make that decision. And having been a manager of her store, one of her busy stores, for 3.5 years, I knew what the work looked like. I already had training from the best. And so when she called and said, would you like to buy the store, we were able to get a deal that we couldn't have gotten otherwise if this store hadn't been about to shut. And so in studying business, I had learned from several places that the best way to start a business is to buy something that someone else had already put together. And so you can usually get in, and we bought a turnkey. So we walked in with all of the equipment there, even the trays, the saran wrap, flour, sugar, a lot of that was right there when we walked in. Because of my experience, we just started. And I knew what I was doing, and so that wasn't a hard decision, something I wanted to do, and that's why we did it.
Very good, and we'll talk about the numbers in a second. I want to make a quick comment to those of you who have been listening over the weeks that we've been on the air. Remember what we talked about. We've discussed the idea that if you wanted to, for example, the example I always gave was open a bed and breakfast. How would you find out if you really want to do it? Well, go out and work in that area. Find out what that feels like. Make sure you really like it. Well, you're a living, breathing, perfect example of that.
Yeah.
You worked in this exact industry, in fact, this exact company, and found out that you did like it. You took that one step further and said, okay, if I'm going to be the business owner, how do I fill in some of the other areas of expertise that you need? And you went out and sought that information. You really put your homework into making this a success, or giving it the best chance to be a success. And God bless you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
The question, I guess, that comes next then is, all right, that's great, but what about the money? Sorry, I know it's rude to talk about money, but in our show we kind of have to, because that is so much of where we live with that business and family. And we're going to also talk about what it's like having a husband and wife in there. But wait for that in a second, I promise. Mm-hmm. But back to the money piece of this. A, how did you find the money to be able to go in and buy what you needed? And B, how did you run the numbers to know or feel comfortable that if you put the money into it, that it would pay off? So either one of those, and whichever order you want. You can do B and A if you want. I don't care.
Well, when the opportunity came, we had inherited a little bit of money from my mother and dad, and we'd actually taken care of them in our own home. And so we had a little bit of money, and it would have really been their dream to have helped me make my dream come true. And so we took that money, and that's what we started, what we bought this business with.
Did you need to go to the bank also, or were you able to get it all from those funds?
Well, the bank was not interested in loaning any money due to the records that we had from the previous owner. What hadn't quite turned, it takes a while when you open a business. And so we weren't in a place where we could just go borrow money. The other thing is most banks want you to have been in business for 2 years, and it didn't count for the 3 years that the store was already open. So we had put our own money into that. And so that's where our decision came. It was a joint decision. Both Rodney and I talked about it. Rodney believes in my dream, and so he was quick to want me to have that opportunity. Now he's kept working. That's part of the way we do this, because he's had to really cover a lot of our personal expenses while I've gotten this business running. And the big surprise to me was it's much more difficult to run a business like I do, because I'm hands-on. I'm there baking the cookies, making the dough, decorating, and to have time to get the books done. One of my really big blessings is that Rodney and I have done that together. He does the paperwork. He does a lot of the hard part that I don't have time to do, and I actually don't have to worry about it because he does it. He's the one doing that.
I almost don't know which of those things to comment on, because they're all so very important. You've just listed a whole level. Everybody just go back, rewind what we just said, take notes, because they're showing you the right way in so many ways to be able to address this. It is difficult. I think one of the messages I take out of your story is one that everybody should remember, and that is that, generally speaking, you're not making a lot of money to live off of, at least not in the early stages. also, generally speaking, it is difficult to find those dollars to be able to get invested into this business or whatever that business is. So, so those are really great messages you've given there, and of course the teamwork, which we'll talk about more after the break. So we are going to take a short break. This is Got Family. We're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson of Eileen's Colossal Cookies right here in Lawrence, Kansas, and we will see you in a moment. Welcome back to Got Family. We are here telling stories at the crossroads of business and family. I'm Carrie Berger. We're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson of Eileen's Colossal Cookies, and they were just telling us a little more about the money part. Again, it seems so indelicate, but it's just part of life. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the marriage part. Boy, talk about taboo topic all around. What next thing we're going to do, we're going to, and that's not even go where we're going to go. We're going to use the 7 dirty words? No, we're not going to do any of that stuff. So anyhow, back to the money part of the deal. How did you run the numbers, or how did you feel confident that the numbers would add up to eventually be able to make a living? I mean, like you said early on, you got to supplement by working elsewhere to be able to pay the bills, but I presume you didn't go into business if that was the long-term prospect, right?
Not at all. That's not our plan. Again, if I wasn't so familiar with the success of Eileen's Colossal Cookies, I don't think that I would have been as quick to say yes. I would have been a little more hesitant, but I've seen the success of that. I did understand going in that you had to get your name out there and that you had to become part of your community. And it wouldn't take you very long to find somebody, if you were asking, do you know anything about Eileen's Colossal Cookies, that our name will come up, because we have quality every time you buy it, and we give to the community in many ways. And that's not by mistake. That's because we do want to be part of the community, but we want everybody to taste our cookies.
Yeah.
So.
Now back to the numbers, if I may. I'm sorry for being so much like a bulldog on this, though. I mean, really, if you think about it, if you're sitting on the sidelines ready to jump in, and you're trying to decide, am I going to starve from this decision, or are we going to be okay? How deep were you able to get into those numbers? Was it an actual franchise engagement that you made, or was it, where'd you get the numbers from? And maybe this is a Rodney question, I don't know. Tell us a little bit more about how you got into the comfort of saying, this is going to be okay, aside from just your experience, obviously. Do they give good disclosure?
Eileen's Colossal Cookies has Eileen, of course, and then her son Tony runs the franchise size. And they have the numbers available to every store. Yearly we get a printout of everybody's sales, and it's broke down to how many dozens they sell, how many frosted dozens they sell, and so we've been able to track that. And we also have to give them back numbers, and we work with a very good accountant in Topeka that also helps us keep track of what's going on. And we're heading in the right direction. We're, of course, not where we're going to be, but we're heading there. And so every week when we do our weekly report, we can tell you what we sell every day, every week. We track on whether we're still going in the right direction from last year. And so that, we had the numbers from the previous owners. They were great. They gave us their numbers. They gave us what was going on. And
you could see where the problems were and why they weren't as successful, and you could see what you could do to make it different and make it better, I presume.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And if we need to do more of this, we can change that sort of thing. That makes perfect sense.
We really, really have high regards for the family that had brought the store up in the condition that we bought the store in. And so we knew that they were going in the right direction. And I knew how to get it to go further into that direction. And so we've been dedicated to the hard work that it takes.
Fantastic. And, that really is a great story, and actually that is what we always talk about, is that if you could get the numbers of real numbers, not just hypothetical or theoretical numbers, but real numbers, if you could see those down to the details of this type of product versus that type of product, if you could see the details of this, not just yearly numbers, which doesn't mean much, but quarterly, or better yet monthly, or maybe even weekly or daily, that's when you can see.
From the day the store first opened, we have all the numbers.
That would make such a huge difference in the ability to say, all right, I see what's happening. I see where they're losing money. I see where they could make money. I see what I could do different to make more money, and that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that story. That, I mean, obviously not everybody will have an opportunity to have that much detail, but the closer they get to your story, the closer they get to those numbers and that information going in, the better chance they have of making a good informed decision that actually does what you expect it to do. So thank you
We
for
have
telling
a
me about
yearly
that.
meeting also with Eileen and Tony to have input on how to go further, and we discuss. We don't raise prices or anything unless that we have their input. And one of the reasons why we're successful is we make our cookies affordable to anybody. And so that's part of our business plan, is keeping the product reasonable.
Actually, that's another discussion too. The question of pricing is always a big question for anybody. And how do you know what's enough or too much, and where's the tipping point on that? And for that matter, recognizing your particular model for your particular store in your particular location. The easy example is grocery stores. When you think about it, you've got a Trader Joe's, which can charge XYZ price for the item, and then you've got a Price Chopper that may have a similar product, but they really can't charge that same price. There's different expectations in those different settings, and knowing your market and knowing what people expect of you. And obviously that's where, again, a franchise comes in handy, because they know their market, they know they've made those mistakes
Yes.
and learn from them, and they get to share them with you, so that you hopefully, I'm sure we all get to still make our own mistakes, but maybe make a few less than you might have if you hadn't had their experience behind you. Is that fair?
That's fair. Plus, we've got a great accountant, and if we've had times when we've called and said, what do we do now, or how do we handle this, or
Yeah.
So we believe in getting the right support.
Fantastic. The right support is you're just a wealth of good advice, and those are all great points. Let's go ahead then and take another break, and then we'll shift to finally talking about what everybody wants to hear, which is, how does this work, having a husband and a wife working together in business? This is Carey Berger. I am Carey Berger, and this is Got Family. We're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson, and we will see you in just a few moments after this break. Hello and welcome back to Got Family. I'm Carey Berger, and we're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson. And now we finally get to ask this question of what it's like to have a husband and a wife working together as co-owners of a business. And uniquely so, with one of you not really, no disrespect, but I don't think you're the baker in the family. Is that correct, Rodney?
That's very correct.
So the product isn't your focus in your particular case. The product is your focus, though, Becky. And so you always knew that you wanted to be involved, and you understood the numbers, or how did that happen?
We did want to do something like this. Very happy and excited to do it. Very early, we kind of decided that she was going to run the store, which dealt with employees and all that, and I would do the books. And we try to keep it separate that way, and because I don't work in the store regularly, I don't have much input as far as employees, so I left it all up to her, and I do the books. And I've learned a lot over the years.
Very good. Well, if you can, then Becky, then so has it impacted your marriage positively or negatively to go from having your own truly separate lives to have them so closely intertwined in the same business and everything in one pot, so to speak?
Well, we've been married 37 years.
That's a good sign.
We have worked together through many things. Rodney was a minister, and I did a lot of helped him. And then I was a children's pastor, and he helped me. So it wasn't new to us to work together. He works a full-time job at Long Motor Company, and then he comes down and he does paperwork, which is a real relief to me. And our kids said not too long ago that we were on a second honeymoon. And I think it's because this is our business, and it's been fun to do it together, and we're proud of it. And so it's really been nice. When we decided to move from Olathe, we sold 2/3 of everything we own. And we are in a smaller place, and we like that because we work hard. We want to come home and just relax and not have a lot of things around us. And so that's also been very pleasant to us. You know, our children are raised, and it's impacted us, I think, more positively than I even expected.
Fantastic. And I guess that is a discussion that obviously every marriage is different, just as every person is different. And so as to whether it's going to be easy for one couple or another, that's another discussion. But you certainly do serve as an inspiration that it can be done, and that you can cooperate in this setting. Do you find that you talk about business way too much, or do you have times that you say specifically, this is this day, and we're not going to talk any business for the next, 16 minutes? How do you do that so you get some non-business time for the two of you?
I think we get, there's a point in the evening when we're tired. And when we hit that point, we don't talk about business. We don't. We just kind of relax and get ready for the next day, because we will be there again. And we're there most Saturdays, so Ronnie doesn't bake all the time, but if I'm in a bind, he does. And if we need him to, he mops. So, when you own your own business, you better be able to do whatever it takes. And so both of us could handle any part of the business. Maybe not as much. I haven't gotten into the books as much as I will once we have chance, but no, it's been really pleasant in our age, where we're at in life now, to be doing this together.
Well, that's another question I was wondering about is, if you were 24 and 26 years old or something like that, do you think that your marriage would have been strong enough for this kind of stress, or do you think it would have made it stronger? Or, what's your advice to the young couple that's considering doing what you're doing? You've been on that other side. You've been married for this many years. You've been successfully married, obviously, and now you're in this business together. What's your advice to the next generation?
As younger people, we probably would have had more, maybe bucked each other a little more, like maybe thought we had the better idea than the other one. But we had a strong commitment to our marriage from the get-go, and a strong commitment to God. So there's, that was a strong thing. So when things were tough, we didn't quit. A lot of people quit, and then on the other side of the tough, there's a new love there that's really good. And so this is kind of a reward for us, I think, having stuck through thick and thin. And so it's kind of like, it's kind of like a pleasant surprise that here we are, able to own something together. And we have a love for bicycling, and so we try, even sometimes, they're sitting in the back of our store right now, because a lot of times we have to slip out to ride our bikes and still go back and work. So we kind of try to prioritize even that, is how do we have the things that are important to us and not just work 24/7.
Very good advice all around. So much more to talk about, and I would like to take one more brief break, and then when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about just sort of life as an entrepreneur and what comes after this. So we'll talk about that in a moment here on Got Family and at thevoiceoflawrence.com. See you in a moment. Welcome back. This is Got Family. We're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson. Well, I almost messed that one up. Of Eileen's Colossal Cookies here in Lawrence, Kansas, right next to the famous Dave's on West 6th Street. We're talking a little bit about what it means on the family side of this equation. We try to talk about everything on this show in kind of 3 different points of view. 1 is personal, 2 is financial, and then 3 is structural. We've been mostly talking about a lot of the financial piece, as you've noticed. We talked a little bit about the personal side, about the marriage and how that works, and we're going to bring those 2 together with sort of what comes next for you. We're not 22 years old anymore. None of us are, well, except for the guy behind the mic right over there. And so we, how long do you do this? How do starting this at this point in your life is, how does that work? What comes next?
Well, of course, we don't want to always work our heads off, so we do have some dreams, and that would be that this store would be so grown and strong that we could put a manager in there, because you know what, Lawrence doesn't want to do without Eileen's Colosso cookies. So we got to keep that in mind too when we set our goals. We want to be able to travel a little, and we definitely want to deepen our love for bicycles, and we like to hike also. So we're working on our health. We're working so that we can sustain, but we also have dreams of putting a manager in there. I still want to have a cafe, so that could come yet. I have some excellent recipes that I've been developing through the years that as a franchise, you're stuck in the franchise. So there's things that I can do that I can't do in my store. So we're not done yet. We still have some dreams. Part of that, also our children live, our two daughters live in California, and we definitely love to go see them, once or twice a year. So as the business gets stronger and stronger, we hope at one point we can put a manager in there.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you've got the energy of those 22-year-olds we were talking about. Still excited about the business, and excited about even more business. Do you think that your excitement and your energy has actually gone up with being involved in this compared to if you worked for somebody else or were a traditional employee? Or what is your thought on that? Do you think it energizes you?
It does energize us, and we get jazzed when we get a big order. We put 331 trays of cookies out at Christmas for Boston Financial, and we have an order that came in today for 1,500 4-inch cookies that will go to a catering thing with Famous Dave's. We have quite a few graduation cookies that have been ordered, and dozens of cookies that will go out for that. We just did Encore for Free State. We also just did the special event for Lawrence High. I can't remember what they call theirs, but we just...
I should know that answer. My children all went to Free State, so I've forgotten what... I've been to the one at Lawrence High many times. It's a great program, and I can't remember the name.
We just did it, and I can't believe I can't pull it out of my head. Do you remember it?
Well, we'll have to think of it later.
Yes.
By the way, you're making me terribly hungry for cookies, just so you know.
Great.
I think that we have successfully achieved subliminal advertising right here now.
And by the way, you have to have more energy. You have to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
You can't get tired. You have to.
Just do it.
That's true. The energy that is required to do this is not optional if you're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start down this path, you really do need to know what you're getting into, be prepared to do what it takes, and quitting is not an option. So
Nope.
yeah, I hear what you're saying. But opening another store and creating another cafe, that could be an option. And the fact that you're that excited that you want to do even that on top of it is really neat and really exciting. And I'm glad you've also pointed out paying attention to your health. I think that so many of us as business owners get so caught up in the necessity of running the business that we kind of forget that we've got to eat right and exercise and maybe even sleep a little every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
What a concept. So very good. Thank you so very, very much. We'll have a couple more questions after this last break, and then we will wrap up. But thank you for talking to us and for making us all desperately want to go home and have a cookie. We'll hear more in just a moment here on Got Family with Carrie Berger. Welcome back. This is Got Family, and I'm Carrie Berger. We're here with Becky and Rodney Johansson of Eileen's Colosso Cookies, and she's here to make a very generous offer if you're listening carefully. So what are you going to say?
Well, two things. Our store is just delightful, and we would like to invite you to come by and to see it. And if we're not real busy, we actually will let you walk through and see where we make our cookies. We put out hundreds and thousands of cookies, and we want you to see that. The other thing would be that when you tell us it's your first time in, we like to introduce you to us by giving you a free cookie.
Very good. That sounds like a win all around. There you go. Now you've got your reward for listening to the show is that you've now learned where to go and get one free cookie and a tour. So that'd be cool. I guess the last question I would have for you would be, tell us a little bit about, I guess, as you know what we're doing here. We do the crossroads of business and family. We talked about the personal side a little bit. We talked about the financial side. We haven't talked about the structural side, if you will. We did. You said that you do listen to professionals such as accountants, and you've got a good one of those. You said you were involved with a franchise agreement with Eileen's. Did you hire an attorney to help you to review that franchise agreement? Did you do that yourself? You know, how did the structure all get put in place so that you felt comfortable that all the necessary paperwork was done right?
Yes, we did hire an attorney who read the franchise agreement and made some recommendations. And so that was definitely part of that. Then we called a couple of other Eileen stores. We've talked to managers of other businesses. And right now we're actually feeling like we need to seek some advice on maybe paperwork filing, getting our file cabinets in a better shape, and what do we have to keep, because the papers pile up, and then you're just like, you feel overwhelmed with that part. So both Rodney and I have been talking about getting a little more help on that. It's your business, so you got to be able to be familiar with it and control it. And so whatever it takes, if you need help, then that's great to have a lot of professionals around that you can call on. And Ronnie has gone to a couple of business, what do you call those things on Saturday?
The SCORE.
Huh? Score?
SCORE, Service Corps Retired Executives.
Oh, fantastic.
So he's gone there and to get some advice on a few things, and those are the places that you can find out who you can call.
Very good. Yeah, and again, you're just a fantastic guest and a great wealth of knowledge telling us about the idea that you do have to do the work yourself, but you don't have to do it by yourself.
That's right.
And you can get professional advice, and in fact you should, and I'm glad to hear that you had that support. We will talk more about this in other times, and maybe we'll get to hear from you again. We'd love to welcome you back if that's appropriate. Now I'll take just a short second to talk a little bit about some of the other things that are happening out there in the business world this week, if you will. Right now we're sitting at, I guess this is now April, May, June, whatever time of year this is. We're in the middle of the year, right? And we've gotten through tax season. Taxes occurred back theoretically April 15th. We all had that wonderful day, however that worked for you. And we probably sort of stopped thinking about taxes shortly thereafter, or tried to stop thinking about taxes. Well, right now there's a whole bunch of different tax law changes that may or may not be happening, and there's a lot of discussion on that. And I think the point of the day is if you ever want to try to deal with those taxes in advance, you got to be proactive. You've got to go ahead and think about what can I do now before it's too late. And in that regard, some of those options you won't know if you wait until December as you're wrapping up the year. Becky and Rodney said they work with their accountant on a regular basis. You don't just wait till December for that. So there are things that could be done that could only be done if you knew about them far enough in advance to get them put in place. Again, there's nothing magic, but right now we are in a place where a lot of people want to forget about taxes, and for good reason. Unfortunately, this is also the time when we really need to not be forgetting about them. We need to be focused on them enough to start making it so that next year it's a better answer. And so that would be sort of the reminder at this time of year as we get there. And today, of course, as we all know, we had an interview with our friends Becky and Rodney Johansson of Eileen's Colossal Cookies, and I'm getting the opportunity now to issue a little invitation of my own, and that is this. If you are a business owner here in our area, and Lawrence in the greater area, and you'd like to come on our show and talk a little bit about what it means to live at the crossroads of business and family, one of the rewards you get is what gets to happen next. Becky gets to tell us all about her business and give us her version of a commercial, so to speak. I really am curious. I want to know, what flavors do you have? How does this work? Why do I just not make up my own batch of Toll House cookies?
Well, we have the best ovens, we have the best mixer, we have the best ingredients, and the best recipes. So if you come in, you're going to see 13 fabulous flavors of cookies. And people always say, what's your favorite? Well, the deal is that kind of changes from day to day, and because every one of them is so very good. Right now, one of our favorites is lemon, and it's got lemon frosting on it. And the deal with that lemon cookie is it's made with what's called real lemon oil. It's not just lemon juice, it's real lemon oil. And so it's got a real good texture and flavor of lemon. But my favorite happens to be the oatmeal chocolate chip. Rodney loves the oatmeal raisin and the peanut butter chocolate chip. We also have a monster cookie, has no flour in it. So if you're if you're gluten intolerant, you can eat that unless you have celiac, then you're still going to react. But we have so many wonderful designs, like our sugar cookies. We always have 3-inch designs you can walk in. If you bring a child in there, their eyes get huge, and they just go on and on. We also do the colossal cookies that are 12-inch, and they're only $12 decorated. 14-inch, $14. 16-inch, $16.
There's a theme.
That's right. And you can pick your design. We have hundreds for you to look at, but people come in with a napkin or they're like it's a baseball team, something like that. We can use your colors. We can do whatever it takes to make it a special cookie for you.
How much notice do I need to give you if I want a special cookie for my son's birthday celebration is tomorrow?
Hey, I can still make it.
We got time?
Yes. We
Really?
have chocolate chip cookies that we can do in 10 minutes.
Wow.
But you can pick any flavor as long as I have 1 hour.
Okay, 1 hour. That's pretty fast turnaround, my goodness. Anything else you want to tell us about it, aside from that you are right next to Famous Dave's at 4931 West 6th Street here in Lawrence, Kansas? Anything
We have
else?
a wonderful fundraiser offer for you. All of our dough is made right there in our store. Nothing's shipped to us already made, so it's made fresh with no preservatives. And then we make all of our frostings. So one of the ways we give back to Lawrence is you can sell our dough, a 3-pound bucket of our dough for $13.50 in your group. And we have sports teams, schools, all different kinds of groups, and they make $5.50 a bucket. So it builds their fundraiser really fast.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so very much. I'm desperately going to have to go down to Eileen's and get me some cookies.
Okay.
And so I guess it worked on me, if nothing else.
Yes.
And thank you for your time today. And back to you, our listeners. If you are one of the business owners that are listening and you already live right here at the crossroads of business and family, we'd love to tell your story. It is amazing how many stories there really are, as unique as each of us as individuals, and certainly as unique as our relationships are with those in our family. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again and to hearing or letting you all hear from us again right here on Got Family. This is Kerry Berger, and we'll see you soon.
For more information on Got Family, visit facebook.com/GotFamilyRadio. Check us out on Twitter @GotFamilyRadio. To leave a message for Carrie, call 844-GOT-FAMILY. That's 844-468-3659. This is Got Family Radio.